Namaskar, hello and a very warm welcome to CIET NCERT's special live phone-in program of Teaching Learning Interventions for Inclusive Classroom. My name is Tanvi Khurana, and in this English class for all the 8th class students, we bring you this chapter number 4, which is Bepin Choudhury's Lapse of Memory, and this is from your book titled Honey Dew. And if you have read this story, you liked it, there's something you didn't like, then please write it to us and let us know anything you have in your mind. So you can connect with us through our number, which is 8800440559. You are watching us live on PMeVIDYA channel number 8 and also on our YouTube channel, which is NCERT Official. In the live chat box, you can write down your questions, your queries regarding this story and share them with us. We have an expert with us, and she'll be telling us a lot regarding this story. Of course, she'll try and explain everything regarding the story, vocabulary, and there'll be a homework for you as well. So let me introduce her to all of you. She is Dr. Varuna Tehelan. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Tanvi.
Thank you, ma'am, for being with us. I'll just introduce you and then we'll begin this chapter. She is an assistant professor from Institute of Teachers and Training Research from BPS Women University, Kanpur, Kalan, Sonipat, Haryana. And on your screens, you can see along with me, we have a sign language interpreter, and she is Miss Payal Saini. Welcome, Payal, ma'am. So Payal will be interpreting each and every word we'll be talking here for your better understanding. So I hope you'll understand each and everything in this discussion. And there are certain more mediums through which you can connect with us. If you want to email us, the email ID would be dth.class8@ciet.nic.in. So let me ask our expert for this session, which is Dr. Varuna Tehelan. Ma'am, what is this story all about? What are we going to understand in this particular program?
Thank you, Tanvi, for introducing me. You know, this story is a very interesting and very amusing story. It has amusement as well as suspense in it. And the whole story revolves around Bepin Choudhury and his lapse of memory. You know, all in our life, we were or we are in that kind of a condition where our forgetfulness, end up in a state of confusion and chaos for all of us. The whole story revolves around Bepin Choudhury, how, his forgetfulness has created a situation where he felt so much confused till the end, and this suspense was lasting till the end of the story. So it's a very interesting story and a very amusing story.
Okay. So, ma'am, I can see that you have prepared a presentation. Would you like to begin it and show it to our viewers?
For sure, Tanvi. Before I, begin this story and discuss about the summary of this story, I would always, being a language teacher, I always believe that you need to create an environment in your classroom where every student feel accepted and safe, and a teacher need to create or construct the information from the start, what she has actually, and she should start with all her abilities and make the best out of it. So before I begin this chapter, let's have a fun game of memory. My dear students, you are seeing a classroom objects on my screen. Try to memorize as many as, so that I can ask you how many of the objects you remember once I, stop showing this slide. So I am expecting my students are seeing this slide and they are trying to memorize different classroom objects. Right, my students? Now,
I am going to speak about
this. I have done, what I have done, Tanvi, I have incorporated an audio voice to it, because the students who can't see, they can listen to my voice. They try to recognize those pictures through my voice, so that they can memorize, right? Now the second, it deals with it showing various suspense and thriller books. So I'll ask my students, have they read any one of it? These are the best sellers. Or have they watched any suspense or thriller movies recently? If they have, they can discuss with me, they can write to us, they can tell us about the various books they have read, which are thriller books or which are full of suspense. So I am expecting my students are going to respond. So in the very next slide, we are going to know about the author of this lesson. You know, he is a well-acclaimed, well-known face to all of us, right? He's Satyajit Ray. He's a great, world-known screenwriter, a filmmaker, and author. He is an illustrator, a music composer. He's always celebrated for works such as the Apu trilogy, The Music Room, The Big City, and Charulata. You know, he has directed more than 36 films and he was awarded by Government of India. He was honored with Bharat Ratna. It is the highest civilian award in 1992. So this is all about Satyajit Ray, and he does not need any introduction because he's a world acclaimed screenwriter and author. So we are moving forward. This is a mind map. You know, why mind map is necessary for this kind of a prose lesson? What I have done is that I have divided the whole idea of this prose lesson into small chunks or in small sentences so that the students who are not able to rearrange the ideas or can't understand the whole lesson, whole prose lesson, they can at least have a gist of this lesson. So you can see on my screen, he is Bepin Choudhury. The whole story, he is the protagonist of this story. The whole story revolves around him. And he meets, Ghosh in a market where he used to visit every Monday, Kali Charan shop, right? And what Bepin Choudhury has observed that somebody is watching him closely, observing him closely. And that person is Parimal Ghosh. And he came forward and he told Bepin that he had with him for a week when he has visited Ranchi in 1958. Now, Bepin was a very loner person. He doesn't like to mingle much and he's a very good reader. In a week, he used to read almost 5 books. You know, he completed 5 books in reading and he mostly read thriller and suspense books. But when Parimal Ghosh told him that he had him with him for a week, he was perplexed. He was confused because he has never visited Ranchi. He was in a confused state, you know, and he thought, no, I have never been to Ranchi. He must be, you know, mistakenly identifying with some other person, you know. But when Ghosh gave him a minute details about him, now he doubted himself. And he decided to confirm. So what he did, he went to a friend which Ghosh has given a reference to. His name was Dinesh, right? So he called him. But Dinesh confirmed what Ghosh said. So now this is driving him crazy. He thought that I had never been to Ranchi. Dinesh is also confirming it. Ghosh is telling me. So he thought that it is something happening to his brain, his memory, you know, he has lost somewhere, there is some forgetfulness about it. So it is driving him crazy. He visited his doctor, Paresh Chanda, right? And Chanda suggested him to go to Ranchi once again so that in order to get back his lost memory. So this is the first part of the prose lesson where I've tried to summarize the whole incident in few sentences. This will help whole class to memorize the incidents, how they are taking place in order, and they can have a gist of this first part of this prose lesson. Yes, Tanvi?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, that's a wonderful method you used to explain the details of the story, mind map. But I wanted to ask you that why particularly did you pick this one method and not anyone else? Or would you like to tell us about any other method through which one can narrate the story?
Tanvi, it's a very fundamental question. Thank you for asking me. You know, there are a number of techniques which we can use, but you know why I have particularly used mind map, because it's a powerful graphic technique. You know what it did is it's a universal key to unlock the potential of your brain. It harnesses the full range of cortical skills, your word, your image, number, logic, and color in a single and uniquely powerful manner. There are a number of ways where you can, you know, teach them through visual representation. You can give them experiential learning. You can, you know, through incidental learning also. You can create an environment in your classroom which help them in learning those ideas, in memorizing those ideas. But this is a very powerful graphic representation of learning these ideas.
That's a wonderful method, ma'am. Thank you for this valuable input. And one more thing I wanted to ask you. You showed some of the novel titles and you wrote they are suspense or thriller books. But I wanted to ask you, why did you pick just these two genres and why not any else?
Actually, Tanvi, the whole story revolves around a suspense actually. Till end, we are not able to know that Bepin Choudhury is, you know, acting like that, or he seriously has lapse of memory. So till end, we are not able to know what is the truth behind the whole incident. So the suspense will be really, you know, I can say at the climax of this story or this prose lesson. So therefore, I chose that the story revolves around some suspense till end.
Okay, all right. So now, ma'am, on my screen, I can see the summary of the story. So let's just get into the details.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've already told you that Bepin Choudhury, Lapse of Memory, is a very amusing story. He is a protagonist of this prose lesson, and it is written by Satyajit Ray, and the whole prose lesson has been divided into 4 parts. Bepin is in habit of visiting bookstores and buying books of his interest, and his interest was of suspense thrillers, and he used to read such books. So on one such visit on Monday, a man approached him and told him that he was his old acquaintance, Parimal Ghosh, from his Ranchi trip. So initially, Bepin was convinced that the man was confusing him with someone else. However, when Parimal told him about some personal details, the latter was confused. He was in a state of confusion and chaos. He didn't have any memory of such past incidents that the stranger was referring to, as he had never gone to Ranchi earlier. Now, in the due course of time, Bepin started getting deeply worried because he's not understanding what is happening with him. So what he checked on Dr. Paresh Chanda, and he was puzzled because Paresh Chanda himself was very puzzled. He has never seen such case before. So upon seeing Bepin's mental state, the doctor advised him to visit Ranchi and clarify his doubts himself. So, Bepin decided to revisit the same place and try to regain those memories which he assumed he has forgotten. So, listening to Chandra's advice, Bepin visited Ranchi with the hope of reviving his memory. But when he returned to Calcutta, the visit to Ranchi left him in the more state of utter confusion. Actually, he called the doctor again. So, in the end, Dr. Paresh Chanda arrived for a routine checkup, and the servant brought a letter. On that letter, it was written urgent and confidential, which someone had left in the letter box. He opened the envelope and read the letter carefully. He discovered that his friend Chunnilal had pranked him actually as a sweet revenge, because when in a time of need, he needed his friend Bepin, he was nowhere. He didn't left, or he ignored him completely. Therefore, Chunnilal has planned the whole situation. He has set up everything. Even he asked the Dinesh to confirm it, and he told him when he was in a dire need of a job, he didn't help him. Therefore, he pranked him. So, in the end, I can only say the whole story says that when your friends, your family needs you in time of need, you should try to help them, because as you sow, so shall you reap. So this is the whole idea, the moral of this story revolves around. So anything else you wanted to ask, Tanvi, in between?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And that's a wonderful message or moral of the story we are learning here. As you sow, so shall you reap. So, ma'am, because we're talking about inclusive classroom in this particular program, I wanted to ask you that why is it important for all to engage in interactive read alouds in the inclusive classrooms? What is its purpose?
You know, it is very, very important. Why so? Because actually I can say read aloud is important for everyone, but especially for learners with special needs, it makes a difference in the classroom. You know, they struggle with vocabulary as they have limited access to text for reading and listening, right, Tanvi? So
Right.
reading out loud, these books, other materials can give them access to wide range of diverse vocabulary words they might otherwise never encounter. So which can bridge the word gap for them. You know, for these students with special needs, encourage them to engage them in a self-directed reading. So therefore, reading aloud is a very, very significant part of a language teaching in a classroom.
Absolutely. So, ma'am, that's all about the story. But when we are talking about the language skills, then how can you enhance the language skills of the students in diverse classrooms? Is it difficult? Is it easy? Can you share your experience?
Tanvi, it is a very interesting question. Why? Because language teachers are always known for storytelling, and they always dramatize or in a very playway method they teach their language in the classroom, right? So for when you are talking about inclusive classroom, you can encourage them to look for new words in and out of the school, in their surroundings, you know, because in that way their concentration will increase, right? And they will try to memorize those words, those new words from their surroundings only. It will be very, very easy for them. Or what you can do as a teacher is you can dedicate a whole bulletin board in your classroom where you are going to celebrate new words. You are going to write new words there where you can display those words, and the students will come up and try to memorize from there. And another way of doing is, what you can do is you put a jar in a classroom, okay? And what you can do, every time you learn a new word, try to put that new word on a slip into that jar. And when the jar is full, try to celebrate those words, you know, in the whole classroom. And the children will, you know, automatically, they will learn so many new words, whether they are special needs children or it is going to be beneficial for everybody actually. It will enhance the whole teaching effective, the learning environment in a classroom. You can build curiosity about words through flashcards. You know, if they have a difficulty in vocabulary, the spelling learning, you can put small, one alphabet on one flashcard and the second alphabet on the second flashcard, and ask the students to stand in a row so that one student will speak loudly and other children will listen to them. So this will help them to learn the vocabulary, to learn the spelling of those words, and that is the total inclusive classroom help them to enhance the whole teaching learning process.
Okay, so ma'am, these are some of the wonderful strategies you mentioned here to build the vocabulary of the students. Thank you so much. But let's just go further, and I can see in the presentation you have shown the page of the book where the chapter is written. So let's have a look at that.
Okay, we'll go ahead, Tanvi.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a text from the NCERT, because of the constraint of the time, I am not going to read the whole chapter. What I have done is I have included my voice input here so that they can listen afterwards. So what a language teacher should do, that I have elaborated the words which are used difficult, which are going to be used by the students for the first time. I have explained these concepts with different, by giving them different examples, and try to be, explaining them in a simpler language, in simpler sentences. So for example, in this particular text, you can see that there is a word called good mixer. I have earlier told you that Bepin Choudhury was not a very social person. He doesn't, he didn't like to socialize with friends. So good mixture, who is a good mixture? A person with reference to his or her ability to get along with others. So there is a reference of Choudhury Falls here. I have tried to show my students the picture of Choudhury Falls. It is in Ranchi actually, which Ghosh has told Bepin that he has been to Ranchi. So therefore there is a reference of Choudhury Falls here. So in this way, we can elaborate the whole paragraph into small chunks and elaborate the difficult and the keywords into a simpler sentences. And it is going to help each and every one in the classroom, whether somebody is visual learners or the oral learners or kinesthetic learners. It is going to be helpful for everybody.
Okay, all right. So, ma'am, I'll come back again to the inclusive classroom portion. And when we know that this is an inclusive classroom, there are all sorts of specially abled children in the classroom. But if we talk about particularly visually impaired children, what pedagogies can be incorporated for visually impaired children in inclusive classroom for teaching particularly the subject English?
Okay. Thank you for asking again, Tanvi. It's a very pertinent question. Actually, for visual learners, make them learn through non-visual modes. And that can be, you can make them learn through real and concrete objects. Whatever I am teaching in the class, okay, whether it's a prose lesson, whether it's a poem, or whether it's a text, any text from your English book, try to give a detailed and a descriptive instruction, a vivid instruction to each and every sentence and every word, so that the visually impaired children didn't find any difficulty in learning and understanding those concepts. You can also use orientation and mobility instruction. You keep, go near to that child, try to explain them through vivid expressions, and you can try to relate their experiences with this new experience which they are learning in the classroom. So you have, being a teacher, you have to be very, very flexible, right? You need to give an elaborative and I can say detailed and descriptive instruction to your visual learners.
Okay, okay. So let's just regroup the entire information, ma'am, which we have learned from the story.
Sometimes there are children who are not able to arrange the information, systematically. So this slide is going to help those students that how this story goes one by one, step by step, so they can memorize. This is a repetitive of all those information which I have just taught in my session. But this one slide, if they have missed something somewhere, if they read this slide, this is going to be a great help for all my learners, that how this story goes, how it starts and how it ends. Because a good prose lesson should always have a good beginning and a very good conclusion, so that they can have a deep understanding of the whole text.
Okay. So we can see the sentences step by step, and this is the entire story in steps. Okay, so let's go to the keywords for today's session, and let me just say these words for our viewers. The first word is idle chat. idle chat, close quarters, close quarters, meek, meek. Okay, so these were the 3 keywords, and now it's time for our expert to give you some homework on the basis of this chapter. Ma'am.
Now, Tanvi, this is the end of this session, and I would like all my students that, they have to write the keywords in their own sentences and try to summarize this whole prose lesson in your own words. Try to incorporate all those new words while summarizing this prose lesson. And Tanvi, there is an adapted homework for the children with special needs also, because those students who can't write, who find difficulty in writing, they can use these keywords in their day-to-day life, in their daily conversation, and they can discuss forgetfulness, experience, friends and family members, which led them in a situation of confusion. But what they need to do is that they try to use all those new learned words which they have learned today. So this is a homework for everybody, and especially for children with special needs. I hope they are going to reply, and they are going to do this homework, and they will submit to you. And now towards the end of the session, this is the format of the homework in which they need to submit their homework with us.
Absolutely. So let me just read out the homework format for all our viewers. If you can see it on your screens, you have to write your name first and then your class. This is for 8th class, so please mention 8th class, your school name and address, and then write the expert or the teacher's name. And in this case, please write Dr. Varuna Tehlandhaiya. And date of the session, which is today, 27th of April 2022. And the photograph next would be optional, but if you'll attach the photograph, it would be really nice of you. So I really expect you to share this homework on our email ID, which is being flashed on the screens at the moment, dth.class8@ciet.nic.in. So this was all about this chapter, and we still have got 2 minutes left. So I have one more question to ask our expert. Ma'am, if in case there's a child who uses augmentative or alternative communication system in a classroom, then how can you as a teacher increase their participation in various activities in the classroom?
There are children who are having a problem, right? So they are inserted with some devices, and that technology is called augmented and artificial devices, which they are using in the classroom. So what we can do is that, if the child uses the words which will need to be, which he is about to learn actually, what we need to do is that these words will be programmed into their devices, okay? So they can practice vocabulary and participate in planned activities. And these can be pre-programmed in child voice output communication aid, so that they can, the other students can also speak with them in chorus. And in that way, it is going to help them to learn new words, new vocabulary through this technology.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us, for sharing all the information you had regarding the chapter, regarding the inclusive classroom, and a lot more. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanvi. Thank you.
And thank you to our sign language interpreter as well. She is here. She interpreted each and every word. So thank you so much, Ms. Payal Saini. So this was the end of our session where we discussed chapter number 4, Bepin Choudhury's Lapse of Memory. If you have missed it, please watch it again on NCERT Official, our YouTube channel. We're wrapping up this particular session here, but we have a lot more sessions throughout the day. And for tomorrow, same time at 12 o'clock, we'll come back again with another session of teaching learning interventions for inclusive classroom, where the topic of discussion would be, it'll be for Hindi subject, and for class 9th, the topic would be Lahasa ki Aur, and this is part number 2. सो कल आप इसे देखना प्लीज़ मत भूलिएगा, अपने सवाल तैयार रखिएगा। आज के लिए मैं इजाज़त लेती हूँ। थैंक यू सो मच वंस अगेन, टेक केयर, नमस्ते।